The Democratic National Committee had been trying to sneak President Biden onto the ticket with desperate measures such as a virtual vote a whole month before the convention. Now, I'm going to give Clayton points for this if you'd like to do an I told you so victory lap, because you had been saying many times that they are going to try and sneak him onto the ballot and leapfrog the democratic process because he is such a problematic candidate. Do you want to do a victory lap and say I told you so?
No, I'll do what Trump does when someone says something like he goes, oh, he always like tilts his head back. He's like, oh, I didn't know.
Okay.
Thank you.
This is your wife giving you the option to say I told you so. You will not have this opportunity again.
Well, no, and this is the cloistered Biden administration right now as they were going to pull something similar to what happened during 2020 when they were able to use the pandemic as an umbrella, right? To do it virtually, not have to be there physically, and to have people sort of send in their stuff ahead of time, get him on the ticket. Hey, we already did it. Sorry, he's already our nominee. We don't even have the convention.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your I told you so credit expires.
Okay.
If he's not going to do it, I'll just say Clayton told you so.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. There we go. All right. So the way this is supposed to go is how we're seeing it play out at the Republican National Convention this week. The delegates from each state gather. They cast their vote for or against the party nominee based on the speeches and debates that they are supposed to be able to have at the convention. Now, what we're seeing at the RNC right now is not a lot of division. They are pretty coalesced around Donald Trump as their nominee, but they are supposed to at least be afforded the opportunity to oppose or bring up alternate points or debate points should they want to. Now, the Democrats should absolutely get this chance too, especially because they are clearly not in unison around Donald Trump as their candidate. Just today, Chuck Schumer coming out and saying, Biden shouldn't be our guy. He's just not fit for the job. It's time for him to step aside, yada, yada. I love him. He's done a great job, but not this guy. Now, they had floated the idea of a virtual vote, but Democrats actually came out in drone force and said, oh, no, this is not right. We should do this the right way, at least do it with a vote by the delegates at the convention. And they called the DNC out for this clear dictator move. And now CBS reporter Aaron Navarro is reporting that Democrats have stepped back and said, actually, we won't do this. Here's a letter that they published that says, okay, no virtual voting before August 1st, which is what they had said they would do, using the excuse that they needed to rush the vote to meet the Ohio state deadline for the ticket, even though Ohio changed the deadline for the Democrats, so they needn't have done this. Here is Democratic candidate, former presidential candidate Marianne Williamson, explaining what they were doing and telling the delegates to remove your vote from Biden if they do this. Watch.
Here's the deal. We're getting mixed messages from the Democratic Party. On one hand, Democratic leaders are saying that they're trying to have private meetings with the president and they're trying to convince him to release his delegates in order to have an open convention and in order for us to have a chance of winning in November. But on the other hand, the DNC is actually doubling down on its insistence that it be Biden. And so they're doing something you need to know about, and you need to know how you can powerfully respond. They're holding a meeting this Friday that is the Rules and Bylaws Committee. And what they're going to try to do is to have an early virtual roll call before the convention nominating Joe Biden. So the only chance now to stop this is for you who are delegates to use your power and to step in. How do you do that? You do that by sending a communication, and it has to be before this Friday, and it has to be notarized, saying that you as a delegate to the convention no longer automatically pledge your vote to Joe Biden. That according to the dictates of your conscience and your firm belief that we're in trouble regarding the election in November, you want to hear from any other candidates, you want to open up this convention.
All right, it's supposed to work like that. It's not supposed to have these kingmakers that are just step right into the role, right? That's how it was designed, is that people go there and make a bid to the delegates. It's not supposed to be a foregone conclusion once we get there.
There's a long history of massive fights breaking out, right, at conventions. I mean, there's lots of history. Only until modern history have we had these nominees sort of selected many, many months ahead of time as the chosen ones. There are times when, of course, you've had members of the House of Representatives. You've had governors, you've had other individuals who show up at these events and they walk out of there like Grover Cleveland style as the nominee. Like, hey, I went to a convention today and I was a lowly member of the House of Representatives, and then I came out of there today as the nominee for the presidency for the Republican Party.
Yes. So, I mean, at least the delegates are supposed to have a modicum of choice. What I like what Marianne Williamson further said on X, that if the Democratic Party continues to act like this, it will never regain the trust of the electorate, as if they have it right now. Recall what they did to Bernie Sanders. They shouldn't have our trust after what they did to Bernie Sanders, what we learned from WikiLeaks. But okay, let's pretend, right, that they've lost our trust right now. She says it's impossible to overstate the dereliction of patriotic duty now being displayed by a party that suppressed its own candidates, Bernie Sanders and Marianne Williamson included, basically coronated someone incapable of defeating a genuine threat to our own life, has dithered instead of handling the problem, and now tries to fix it by doubling down on their foolishness. They deserve the crash and burn they're attracting, but the American people don't deserve it, she says. And this is a valid point. Now, when this news broke that they were going to try and slip in this virtual candidacy, at least 3 Democrats spoke up and opposed it. That was Representative Susan Wild, Mike Quigley, and Jared Huffman, all said in a signed letter that this could deeply undermine the morale and unity of Democrats. What unity are they looking at? I have not seen some in a while. Now, Democrats are saying that like any Democrats that oppose this, saying that rushing in and virtual voting is a Trumpian maneuver. I wonder, when did Trump do something like this? Try and rush the vote. He did all his primaries, didn't he? He won his primaries. He waited for the nomination, or presumably because he will get it tomorrow. When did that happen? This seems like their argument is that Trump would do things like this. This is a play out of their playbook, is to, sort of warn you about what the other side would do while they do it. That sort of authoritarianism 101. So now that the Democrats will have their vote by their delegates, will they cast it for Joe Biden? This is the question, right? This is the hanging Chad. This is the unknown, and it's not at all clear. Look at this recent report by Politico showing that most other Democratic candidates would poll higher that Joe Biden. This is their findings from a Political report. Now, it does not say that any of these candidates could beat Trump. It just says that any of these alternative candidates would do better than Biden.
This includes Vice President Harris.
Right, but it's not their favorites to do this. Now, look at the candidates that they think would do better. Missing from this list is Gavin Newsom, Kamala Harris, AOC, Elizabeth Warren, the normal people that think. Michelle Obama, right? So these are actually brand new faces, besides Gretchen Whitmer, who we see talked about a lot. But Mark Kelly, Wes Moore, the governor of Maryland, Josh Shapiro from Pennsylvania. So that's pretty interesting. These are brand new faces. Again, they say that any of these people, not that they would beat Trump, but that they would poll better than Biden, that they would lose less than Joe Biden as it stands right now. So will they actually switch out for any of these faces? I feel like because California continues to just burn right in front of us, my beloved home state of California is no template for what we want for the rest of the country. So they're no longer talking about Gavin Newsom. They know Kamala Harris is a bit of a losing battle. AOC, Liz Warren, they're too radical. So it's interesting to at least see these brand new fresh faces, but is it too late to sell them to the American public? So let us know what you think. Will any of these people be the surprise candidate, like Clayton said, Grover Cleveland style? Or are we just going to get the old slip with Joe? Yeah,
and he's not the only one, Grover Cleveland. I mean, there's so many, throughout history that go into the convention and they duke it out,
right?
And they come out after a few bloody days of deciding for their party who's going to be the nominee. So multiple tickets, multiple votes, like it's not a foregone conclusion. Now, that's why these conventions really don't mean anything, but now it actually might mean something.
Right.
Because I think that this actually gives them cover. This gives Democrats cover, quite honestly, who wanted to push him out. Adam Schiff, of course, coming out today saying he needs to resign. But other Democrats can lean on the delegates now. They can go into this convention. They can be quietly making phone calls to all of these delegates saying, here's where you need to put your vote. Here's where you need to put your vote. And then suddenly it can be a shock.
Right.
A shock convention vote. And we didn't have anything to do with it. It was the delegates who thought you were too old. You know, it gets them off the hook.
Right.
It gets the Nancy Pelosi's off the hook. It's now on the delegates, the nameless, faceless delegates. Who knows who a delegate is?
I brought that up like a couple weeks ago, I think, or maybe last week. I don't know. Time doesn't exist. But this is how they save face. This would be the way they save face. Like everybody comes out clean if they do it this way. If Biden steps down, then he looks weak. Everybody looks weak, and so they have to do it this way.
I mean, are we making room for sincerity, that it could actually be like a sincere process where they sincerely nominate someone new and have an argument about it?
Well, I mean,
I can't handle sincerity from
at the heart of
politicians here on the show. I'm going to leave.
At the heart of it, I mean, this is what they were saying, right? Which is that they would do it virtually ahead of time, so it'd already be finished.
Right.
Right now, they're leaving it open, and so there is this sincerity here that they could actually maybe try to pretend that there's sincerity. I'll give it the glean of sincerity.
Let's leave space for that they could return to the times of yore and actually have a candidate that they want. So that would be interesting.